44 minutes past the hour. There was a huge backlash this morning against an image ESPN published on its website. It ran a Photoshop picture of Eagles quarterback Michael Vick as a white man. Here it is. It was meant to accompany an article which ESPN titled, "What if Michael Vick were white?" The author of that article says he had no idea about the artwork and wants to be judged on the words in his article. His name is Teray. Maybe you remember him. He was part of the American Morning family. And it's safe to say he is not happy with the headline or the picture. Teray tweeted this last night. He said, "I wrote an essay about Vick and race. ESPN, the magazine, titled it and added the art without me, which is normal procedure. Judge me on the story, not the art." ESPN, though, stands by its decision, saying it appreciates and encourages the discussion the image has prompted. Joining us now is Teray, who is the author of Who's Afraid of Post-Blackness. We're also joined by Raina Kelly, the senior editor of ESPN, the magazine. Welcome to you both. Wow, talk about backlash. Let's start with you, Teray, since you wrote this article. I was looking at your Twitter feed, and there are some very nasty tweets on there. I'm just going to, people are saying some pretty ugly stuff. I'm just going to read one of them, one of the more mild ones. Okay. This is from Twitter. "In what world did it seem like a good idea to put Vick in whiteface, doing an article with Brady in blackface?"
Right.
I mean, when you saw this image of Michael Vick as a white man, your thoughts were?
I was dismayed. I was horrified. I didn't imagine that they would do that, and it contradicts what I'm doing in the story, because I talk about that there's this commonplace idea, this thought experiment that all of us do, that if something happens to somebody, white or black, and you say, well, just switch their races, and then would it be racist or not racist? And this is supposedly a test to know, is it racist or not? Would the same thing happen if person was black or white? And I'm like, this whole concept doesn't really make any sense, because race informs your entire life. So you wouldn't even enter the same moment the same way, right? You'd be entirely different. If Michael Vick were white, if that was even imaginable, he may not even go to the NFL, because he might see other options for his life and would try to do something else with his life. So just the concept of reimagining somebody as white or black is extraordinarily difficult. And I dismiss the concept of that right away in the story. So for the headline and the image to suggest, let's look at him as white, is extremely, it's a perpendicular relationship to the story that I wrote.
Okay, well, let's head to Raina then. So Raina, because you had a part in the decision making, why put this image out there? Like, why make Michael Vick a white man?
Okay, well, the first reason we did it is because, I mean, I'm sure, as you know, the purpose of the art in a magazine, on television, and a newspaper is to accompany and make the reader think in a way similar to the story. For the art, for this, What If Michael Vick Were White, we turn to the late Tibor Kalman, who was the editor-in-chief of Colors magazine. And what he did in his magazine is that he racialized. He made Queen Elizabeth II black, and he made Pope John Paul black, and in doing so, it became a very famous art experiment to look at how visually we think about people differently when they're a different color. This was something we thought about for a long time. In terms of the question was out there from the moment he was arrested. This is something we took from the zeitgeist. In fact, we dedicated, an entire issue to Michael Vick, and part of it was a Vick Confidential, in which we asked NFL football players if they thought things would have been different for Michael Vick, if he would have been punished less severely had he been white. And just under 60% said yes. So this was not a question we plucked out of the air. I mean, that we made up. We plucked it out of the zeitgeist. And because what we wanted to do was discuss Michael Vick as fully as possible, discuss the dog-fighting issue as fully as possible, and we wanted to engage.
In fairness, you were trying to be provocative, too. You were trying to drive people to read this article and to your site.
There are two, I think that one, race is always a provocative issue. Second, there are three ways to handle it. You can ignore it. You can use all kinds of code words so that nobody really knows what you're saying, or you can just put the issue out there and let people talk about it. That's what we did, and that's what we've done.
Okay, Teray, you're listening to all of this. So, I mean, have you two talked about this at all? I assume that you have not.
No, Raina edited the story, so we talked in depth about what would be in the story, and we knew that it was a delicate story and how to handle it and how to make sure that people didn't take the wrong impression from the points I was trying to make.
But obviously you're saying people did take the wrong impression because of the decision that Raina made. You heard her explanation. What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, I deal with it as a writer. You know, I can't even deal with the marketing of the story, putting that image, taking that title. When you see that image in particular, which goes counter to what the story is all about, you come to the story with a pitchfork, right? You are angry at me, you're angry at ESPN. I completely understand some people's anger. A lot of people read the story and were like, well, this is actually reasonable and smart and deals with the issue in a very complicated way. And, you know, I mean, there's just so many issues. Race is so layered. You can't just switch people's races and know the answer. And I would actually disagree with those 60% of NFL players. In America, we love dogs. And for a lot of people, hurting a dog is morally equivalent to hurting a toddler. And I think if Tom Brady were found to have a massive dog fighting ring in his backyard, he would do 2 years in jail as well, and he would be thrown off the Patriots and out of the NFL, and he wouldn't just be able to get away with it because he's white. And you know, these are very complicated issues.
They are complicated issues. Raina, a last question for you. Why do you think that so many people found this image offensive?
Because it is, I think at first blush, they may have thought, oh, well, we are trying to just gin up interest, you know, get hits to our site, but we're a magazine and we had dedicated close to 100 pages to Michael Vick. We knew this picture was going to be provocative. We knew it was going to be thought-provoking. That is what we wanted. We did not want people to shut down. We wanted people to stop, look at the picture, and then read the article, which in fact is what they did. It's a fantastic article, and one in which Teray, as he mentions, handles race in a very nuanced and layered way. But the first question, which is asked and answered in the piece, is, would this happen to a white quarterback? Teray says yes, and then we move on to the idea of switching races. And that is something that's very interesting to me, and I think to our readers, because when you look at somebody and you look at their race, you make decisions about them immediately. And what we wanted to do was almost a visual experiment with our readers. How do you feel about Michael Vick when you see him white?
Well,
do you feel about him differently?
It does make people kind of shut down, and it does change the reaction. It does change the reaction even to ESPN, that people are like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And, you know, to me as well, and it's quite a lightning rod.
Okay,
That's unfortunate.
I wish we could go on with this conversation, but we cannot. But it has been certainly interesting, and I don't think you two are going to come to a meeting of minds over this. Somehow I have that in my head. Thank you, though, both of you, for coming in and talking about this. Teray and also Raina Kelly, the senior editor for ESPN, the magazine.